So welcome, and we're so excited to have you all here today. We're going to go ahead and get started. So Reaching Volunteering Goals is our second workshop in the Reaching Goals series. This is a Habitat for Humanity peer learning workshop presented by Giveffect. We recently surveyed all of the Habitat affiliates who use Giveffect to learn about how we can further support your needs. Almost every single respondent let us know that they wanted to learn about best practices and successes from their peers. So here we are. I'm excited to facilitate today's discussion. My name is Tara Peitzer, and I'm the Director of Marketing Communications at Giveffect. All right, so here's our agenda. We'll start with welcome and introductions, and then Felicia Alingu will present school group reservations, followed by Stacy Shirk presenting Team Build Days. We'll save plenty of time for Q&A, so please feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. If your question is for a specific speaker, please do indicate that in your question. Then we'll wrap up with some closing remarks. Our speakers today are two incredible volunteer and community engagement leaders. Felicia Alingu is the Director of Community Impact for Habitat for Humanity of Northwest Metro Atlanta, and Stacy Shirk is the Community Engagement Manager of Habitat for Humanity Kansas City. Both of these women bring with them great experience and many successes. Also on the workshop are my colleagues at Giveffect, Yulia, Jack, and Sarah. I'm sure that for many of you, these are familiar faces and names. They'll be here to help out. So if you have any questions, whether it's about Giveffect or you need some technology help, please also use the Q&A icon to ask your questions. So don't hesitate to reach out to let us know how we can help with anything either during today's workshop or after. And for those of you who are not familiar with Giveffect, Giveffect is a 10-in-1 nonprofit software solution. You can see here all the systems included within Giveffect. From volunteer management to fundraising, to marketing, to grant management, and so much more. Giveffect is your one source of truth across your entire organization. And specific to volunteer management, we help you save time and make it easy to attract, onboard, and manage your construction and restore volunteers. Also unique to Giveffect is the ability to manage partner families, including tracking mortgage payments and sweat equity. All right, as we all know, volunteers are the heart of Habitat for Humanity. So to set the stage for today's discussion, I'd like to learn more about what's most important to you. And so with that, I'd love for you all to participate by sharing your answers in a poll. So let me go ahead and launch this poll. All right. So here's our first poll. What is your top 2023 priority? I'll give you all about a minute to respond. And then I'll share the results. All right, just a few more seconds. It looks like the majority of you have already voted. Great. I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. And I will now share our results. So it looks like the majority of you, it's a priority for you to increase your volunteer fulfillment rate. And we're going to be talking about that a bit today with each of the speakers. So you'll definitely want to pay close attention. And second to that, we do have increased volunteer retention, which is 30%. And I think those two really go hand in hand. We'll also be touching on becoming paperless, like using things like application forms and waivers. And then also, of course, streamlining the volunteer registration process does help it all. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing now. Thank you everyone for participating. And I think that this is now a good segue um, to move into our first speaker. All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Felicia.
Hi,
Hi.
Felicia. Welcome.
Hi. So as Tara mentioned, I am the Director of Community Impact at Habitat for Humanity of Northwest Metro Atlanta. And I like to say that I operate at the center of our mission, bringing people together through homeowner selection, volunteer management, community outreach, and advocacy. And I'm completely obsessed with, the opportunities that exist to use data and technology to make the nonprofit and the public sector more efficient at serving our constituents and demonstrating the outcomes of what we do. So that's why I'm excited to talk about the solutions that Giveffect has provided to streamline our volunteer management process. And I'll be talking about one of our annual home builds. So every year we partner with the Cobb High School Coalition to raise money to build one home. And this is a group of public high schools, each with a Habitat campus chapter. A faculty advisor manages each chapter, and students who raise the most money get to participate in the construction. Last year, 4 schools participated, and the school advisors requested the ability to add students to the roster themselves. Now, in the past, we have had to create all these detailed instruction guides for each part of the process, and inevitably there would be like low adherence because people found it too difficult. That led to not having a good handle on the staffing of each build day prior to the event and not having an accurate count of volunteers that actually participated, and a lot of paper waivers being signed on the site. So we needed the process to be pretty simple because it's only going to be useful if people actually use it. So the next slide, we used Giveffect's volunteer reservations, and it was a major success for the high school coalition. They had a total of 188 volunteer spots during the build, and 157 of those reservations were confirmed by the student volunteers. Each build day is about 8 hours, so we recorded 1,192 hours for the Cobb High School students, which means that 95% of the assigned hours were actually completed. And the next slide shows us the solutions that we used to manage the high school build. So we used Giveffect's volunteer campaigns, reservation links, and the Event Buddy app, and of course, our good old emails to communicate with our high school advisors. So I'll go into a little bit of a play-by-play as to how we did the high school build. If we can move to the next slide. We, first of all, created a volunteer campaign for each house build, all of the house builds that we did last year. And it was our first year using Giveffect completely in 2022. So we were starting this a little bit new. We created a volunteer campaign for each house build. And I thought that using the campaigns was ideal because you can allow participants to volunteer and donate from the same page. And the donations can be attributed to the sponsor of that particular build. So you won't have to do a lot of tracking to find out who gave what donation to what group. You can also include sponsor logos on the page as well, the location of the build with the Google Maps link, details about the future homeowner, and general information about your organization. So it was kind of a one page for everything, and that made it simple for most of the volunteers. Step 2, within each campaign, we had a series of volunteer jobs. So the jobs for us refers to the volunteer group that is participating. The jobs can be password protected so that only people in that group can sign up. And then within each job, we have volunteer shifts for each build day that the group is participating in. So generally within our organization, this has been a major win because volunteers can sign up for multiple shifts in one setting versus having to sign up for different shifts from different pages. So we like that a lot. Step 3 was to create the reservations for the high schools. And I'll be honest, this part was a little bit tedious because there were 4 high schools participating in 6 build days, and each school needed a separate reservation for each build day. So that's 24 separate reservations. And as you can see on the screenshot, each reservation has a contact person who manages the list, and those are the school advisors. The group name is the name of each high school, and the reservation is attached to a volunteer job within the campaign. Step 4, we emailed the advisors a link to each reservation. And in the email, we included some screenshots explaining how to do it. At the time, there was no way to automatically notify the reservation contact, and the advisor would have to come back to this email every time they wanted to manage the reservation. So that part of the process was not ideal, and it was something I brought up during one of our check-in meetings with our account manager at Giveffect, and I think that was Jack at the time. Lo and behold, a few months later, they did implement a method that allows the constituent to create their own group reservation, and the system sends the contact an email with a link for them to manage their own invitations. So now we just share a link to the campaign page, and the advisors can click group reservation and determine the number of spots that they want to create on their own, which is another huge time saver for our volunteer coordinator. And that is what's shown on this page. As you can see, they can create the number of spots that they need, which was a big thing for us because the high schools, based on the amount of money they raised, that would determine how many spots that each school got. And in addition to having the students participate, they would also have a teacher come to the build on one day, or maybe somebody from the yearbook to take pictures. So sometimes you would need, 7 spots, sometimes you would need 10 spots, and this is a way for them to manage that themselves versus us having to communicate with them every time when a change has to be made. Step 6 is something external that has been really useful for us when sending links. We have a WordPress website, and we use the plugin that's called Better Links, and that helps us to create these shorter, meaningful links that we can share to the school advisor so that they can have an easy access to that campaign page in a way that they can easily remember, and hopefully that will lead to better performance for the online registration as well. Step 7, our school advisors, like I said, can manage their invitations independently, and they can see which students have RSVP'd, which students have declined, and which ones have not responded. Again, this reduces the amount of emails and phone calls we get from the advisor asking about how many students they have on their list and requesting to switch one student from another because of scheduling conflicts. So this was a really key part of the system. Step 8, the build day finally arrives. We're all excited, and we have an iPad on the site to track actual participation through the Event Buddy app. It's very simple because you select the campaign and it will pull up the roster for today's date automatically. So we usually have a volunteer at the check-in desk on our build days, and they don't have to do too much searching to find the correct list. They just find the volunteer's name and they hit the orange button to check in. Now, however, if a student was sent an invitation and they did not RSVP, the name would not be on the roster. So you would have to add them to the list, or tell them to go back to the email and hit RSVP so that they would show up on the list. So keep that in mind when using the reservations. The next step is about reporting, checking in and out on site automatically really, calculates the volunteer hours in Giveffect automatically. So it makes reporting so much easier. And anybody out there who does the affiliate statistical report for HFHI, you have to report the number of volunteers and the number of volunteer hours for a specific time period. Or if you're out there doing the quarterly reports for AmeriCorps, that's another situation where you have to report these numbers. And instead of having to download the Excel sheet and doing the calculations yourself, you can just add the criteria that you need in the advanced search, and the system will display all the totals that you need. So for this example, I just searched for all the group reservation names containing the words high school within our campaign from last year, which was 761 Britt Road. And that is how I was able to determine that 157 students participated for those 1,192 hours. And all in all, on the next slide, you'll see that this process helped us communicate more effectively with our high school Habitat chapter advisors and led to a positive volunteer experience with less time, less labor from our volunteer coordinator and from myself. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important for us to know what the staffing is for Volunteer Build Day, especially a day where we're using fewer power tools because we have student volunteers that are under 18. If we have too few volunteers, we won't get everything done. Our construction staff is going to be mad at us because the house won't be ready for the next inspection, and construction could potentially be delayed. We don't want that to happen. And Giveffect's volunteer management has been an important tool to make sure everyone involved has the essential information. In the future, on our next slide, I hope that we can get our volunteer house leaders to create their own group reservations in the system for the construction crew. Now, they're a bit of a different demographic and potentially less tech savvy, so we're working up to that for them. But right now we are creating those reservations for them so that they can enter the construction crew into the list. Also, we want to explore using the online consent form for minors, which is when you edit a job, you can see the consent form and the minor waiver. Especially for the high school build where we have a lot of minors participating. Right now, we do require them to bring a paper copy of their parent permission form, but we're hoping that this feature will help us reduce the amount of paperwork that we're having to store on site. So that is our story of how we had a lot of success with the Giveffect system in our Cobb High School Coalition build, and we're hoping that it continues.
Thank you, Felicia. And please do keep us updated, especially as you use consent forms with Giveffect and work towards becoming paperless. I think that not having so much paper on site or same day, making sure you have everyone's consent form will definitely help a bit as everyone gets
Absolutely.
settled as soon as they arrive at the construction site. All right. So Felicia shared, one of the many successes they achieved is a positive volunteer experience, which is really the result of what you talked about as far as effective communication and streamlined volunteer management. So this actually brings us to our next poll. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that here. All right, so again, I'll give you all just about a minute to vote. So what are the areas in which you're looking to improve your volunteer experience? All right, just a few more seconds. It looks like the majority of you have voted. All right, I'll go ahead and end the poll here and share the results. So it looks like actually 80% of you selected more effective and efficient communication or follow-up with volunteers. And Stacey will be touching on that in what she will be sharing with us. So I'm going to go ahead and sharing the results here. So thank you so much for participating. All right. So in addition to collaborating with schools, most affiliates do put on a variety of build days. Stacy Shirk, Community Engagement Manager of Habitat for Humanity Kansas City, is going to share best practices and successes with team build days and specifically with women's build. Stacy will also touch on the ways they've improved their volunteer experience. So one more reminder before I pass the mic over to Stacy. Please ask your questions using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. And I believe we may have the chat now working, so feel free to use that as well. And we will answer them after Stacey presents. So, all right, handing it over to you, Stacey.
Thank you, Tara. I am Stacy Shirk, and I am the Community Engagement Manager here at Habitat for Humanity of Kansas City. I have been working in volunteer and donor cultivation and management, both in professional and volunteer roles over the last 10 years. And here at Habitat KC, I manage our year-round community engagement efforts with organizations to build new and cultivating relationships to help us provide affordable housing solutions for Kansas City community. So with that, I want to talk to you a little bit about what our team build days look like and the successes that we've had in 2022 and what we're hoping to have for 2023. So in 2022, we successfully had 123 sponsored build days. And what sponsored build days are for us is when an organization or community partner sponsors a build day, meaning they provide a monetary donation that goes directly towards building affordable housing solutions for Kansas City families. And with that, they bring out volunteers from their organization to have a build day on our construction sites. We do that throughout the year, but we have a 2-week initiative called Women Build that a lot of affiliates do that is in the month of May. And we used to only have it for 1 week, but it has been so popular that we expanded it to 2 weeks. We consistently sell out all of our build sites for Women Build. And last year we had 386 volunteers that were out for Women Build. And we had it for 5 days per week, 4 sites per day, and it ran for 2 weeks. Next slide, please. So how we did that, how we managed that successful initiative for those 2 weeks, and really just our team builds throughout the year, is using the tools in Giveffect like the campaign page feature. We use the reservation setting, which makes managing team builds so easy, not just for us internally, but for the organizations that have, for the organizations that are bringing in volunteers. We also do a lot of communication via email through Giveffect, but also using the links provided through Giveffect in personal emails to our main point of contacts for our organizations. We use the web form feature for both surveys and for embedding questions into our volunteer application and waiver. And then we do surveys at the end to really gauge what our volunteer experience was like. So next slide. So basically, what is our play-by-play and how did we do this? Next slide. First of all, we create a campaign page. So we have 2 main campaign pages, one specific to all of our general construction volunteers, where we link all of the team build opportunities outside of our specific initiatives. And those campaign pages really are beneficial because we create the shifts that all link to these campaigns, and then specific private reservations that go directly for an individual's or an organization's campaign or team build that they're having. And those campaign pages are really great because they do provide useful information specific to what it looks like to be a volunteer on our general construction sites, or what is Women Build specifically, what are we trying to achieve during Women Build, what is our success. It shows the volunteers that we have and the funds that we've raised. So we start with a good solid campaign page. Next slide. And then we use the web form, which has really been a great tool for us to bring in interested organizations that want to come out for a sponsored build day, whether it be just a general sponsored build day or specific to our Women Build initiative. And what we do is we create the web form in Giveffect, and we use that link, and it's embedded into our website. So interested organizations can go onto our website and fill out this form, letting us know that they're interested, and it comes directly to our inbox, where then we can reach out to them and discuss with them opportunities that they have for sponsored build days. So the next, once we have an organization scheduled and they've committed to a sponsored build day, we use the reservation tool where we create a private shift, and then we link that to a specific reservation that is specific to this organization. And we use that link and then we send a personal email to their main point of contact. And it allows them to really manage their volunteers in a sense that they can put their names and email addresses in and send them the invite to fill out the volunteer application and waiver. But they can also then really track and monitor the fulfillment of their volunteers. So it does cut back on the constant emails that we're having to send out, or their questions on, did I get all the volunteers in? Are they all signed up? Has everyone completed the waiver? It really is a great tool. And the reservation links also, when you put their name and email address in and you send them the invite, we have created our volunteer application and waiver to have everything in it to where we're completely paperless. So a volunteer can go on their phone or their laptop or their computer at work and fill out the volunteer application and waiver, and all the information that we need is automatically on their profile in Giveffect, and it confirms them for their volunteer day. And next slide, please. So we also build form questions into that volunteer application and waiver, and this really allows us to get all the necessary information that we need for each of our volunteers, whether it be dietary restrictions, t-shirt size, gender, race, anything that we want to know about our volunteers. And for our specific team build days, when those are sponsored build days, we provide lunch and t-shirts for each of our volunteers. So we're able to use the information that they put in their form or in their application, so their dietary restrictions, for instance, and order lunch to meet their needs. T-shirt sizes, we provide t-shirts for all of our volunteers on our team build days. So that allows us to have all that information, and it lives right there on their profile. So we're really able to gather all the data that we want and need for each of our volunteers to really help provide a better volunteer experience, but then also better communication to them. Next slide. And so what are our achievements? So I really feel like having this very clean way of organizing our sponsored build days and our volunteers, and the communication that we can provide to them, and getting their volunteers signed up very efficiently really creates a positive volunteer experience all the way around, but it also allows us to really have a high fulfillment rate on our construction sites. We manage our fulfillment, or track our fulfillment rate, basically by asking our construction team, what is your needs? How many volunteers do you want out per day, per week, per month? And then we use that as the basis for the number of volunteers that we have out and how we get our fulfillment rate. And here at Habitat KC, we are consistently about 70% or above for a volunteer fulfillment rate. And we really think that that is really possible because of the ease that we have using the Giveffect tools in managing our volunteers. And Giveffect really does also allow us to really provide positive and clear and concise communication to our volunteers. We use the SMS texting feature in Giveffect if we need to communicate day of, if there's been rain, to let them know, hey, the sites are muddy, please prepare for that. Or if we have to cancel volunteers because of weather changes, or if we have to move sites based on a change on our construction scheduling. We can use that text feature, but also that email feature where we can go into everyone in that reservation and email all of them directly through Giveffect. So it allows us to really save time here internally, but also just provide updated and timely information. And then at the end, we really do know that we can create a positive volunteer experience. We use that web form feature also to create a survey for our volunteers that we send out the day after their volunteer experience. And thanking them for coming out, but also we include that link in there for them to go in and complete a survey for us. And it's a very short, simple survey. It's basically 2 questions. Did you have a safe volunteer experience with safety a priority, basically? And then what was your overall thought of your volunteer experience? And you can rank it 1 to 5. And we're consistently in between that 4 and 5 average per month. And we really know that a big part of that, they are able to give us comments on what made their volunteer experience positive or not positive. And consistently, we're told it's the ease of volunteer management, the ease of signing up, the ease of registering to volunteer, the communication that they receive really creates for a positive volunteer experience. Next slide, please. So for 2023, what are we hoping to achieve and build on? We really hope to continue to have high fulfillment rates, and we really want to engage additional partners to help us build capacity, engage in additional sponsor or organizations that want to come out, have a sponsored build day. It allows us to consistently have enough volunteers on our construction sites, but also bring in necessary funding to continue moving our mission forward. We also have really found Giveffect to be a useful resource in facilitating our volunteers, donors, and communication using all the tools that I discussed earlier. We've also really started to use our data that we've collected and that lives in Giveffect on our donors and volunteers profiles as necessary information in trying to figure out how we can convert those volunteers to donors. We have recently used an outside third-party organization to help us build a survey where we survey through emails, through Giveffect, our volunteer contacts and ask them specific questions on really what they want from us, what do they want to know from us, how do they want to be communicated with, and we're using that information to really streamline our communication with them and give them the information that they're asking for. Next slide. So that's all I have about our team builds and our Women Build initiative.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Such a great presentation here, and we're also really looking forward to maybe getting an update from you several months down the line on how the information that you're gathering in the survey, how you're using that and applying that through your volunteer experience to create an even more positive experience and keep up with your high fulfillment rate. So thank you for that. I also want to take a moment to thank Felicia again as well. Both of our speakers today were amazing. So we'll give everyone just a few more minutes to write in your Q&A, again, using that icon at the bottom of your screen. And in the meantime, we'll start with some Q&A that we already have here. All right, so let's see, we have both speakers now. The camera's on. Okay, wonderful. All right. So first up, we have how do you turn current volunteers into volunteer recruiters? This is open to either one of you.
I'll go first. We are really lucky here in that we have a fairly strong base of what we call regular volunteers. And these are volunteers, some of us have been with us, some of them have been with us for over 30 years. And they weren't necessarily skilled when they came to us, but they came from various professions and over the years have really became skilled volunteers. And we really know that they work out on the construction site side by side with our other volunteers. And so they are great trainers, first of all, to our volunteers who come to us and have never volunteered, but also just a great way of allowing another volunteer to spread the word about our mission and what we do, and really create an overall positive experience when they're out there on the construction site. And we have really found that they can really help us in recruiting and maintaining other volunteers. So that's kind of one of the tools that we use in recruiting, besides, you know, all the things that I talked about using the web form online. And we have a very strong social media team here at Habitat that really does a great job of putting out lots of great information about what it means to be a volunteer here at Habitat and how you can sign up and how you can come to us. So I think those two tools are things that we really use a lot at recruiting and then retaining those volunteers.
Thank you.
And yeah, I would add to that, just making sure that the volunteers have a positive experience is really important, because you have somebody that comes in and has a great experience. Well, they want to come next week and maybe they're going to bring their friend with them. So making sure that they're having the positive experience is a big thing, and just letting them know. I think one thing that we want to do more of is on the build site, when we have our volunteers there, it's kind of a captive audience. Let them know this is what we need. We need people to come out here every Saturday and be crew leaders, and kind of lower the intimidation, because people think, oh, well, I don't know how to lead a crew. Well, we'll teach you how to do it. And, you know, we have friendly people on site that'll help you through the whole process. I think those are our major keys to recruiting additional volunteers.
Thank you, Felicia. And I think our next question actually is somewhat related. So how do you find skilled weekday volunteers? So I think that's a nice follow-up to this last question.
Absolutely. And I'll just continue by saying that they don't start off skilled necessarily. We do get requests sometimes, you know, hey, I just retired. I'm a contractor and I just retired and I'm looking for something to do. We love those people when they come in, but sometimes you just have somebody who has never really done it before. They're interested in it, and you have to kind of have a lower bar of entry for those people and have a process in place that you can train them so that they become skilled volunteers.
Yeah, I would second what Felicia says. I think it's getting the volunteers out for that very first time, really, and teaching them just the basic things that they need, and encouraging them to continuously come out. And we, again, back to our regular volunteers that we have that act as crew leads, they didn't all start with us as skilled, but the more that they come out, the more they learn it. And I think it's really creating the positive volunteer experience for them that they want to continuously come out. And I will say there are some really great organizations in various communities that is really working, and we're working with one specifically here in Kansas City that's working with the just retired population, 60 plus. These people are highly, some of them highly skilled, come from, high level professional settings that are really looking to get back to their community. So find those organizations that are, for instance, the one here in Kansas City is called Giveffect. And I know that's a nationwide program that I believe started in St. Louis and has grown, or I'm sorry, started in Springfield, Missouri, and has grown to be nationwide. But it is an organization that's really working hard to place these 60-plus-year-old volunteers into nonprofit organizations. So find those type of organizations, because these are people that really want to volunteer. They want to work during the week. They want to commit to an organization and spend a lot of time with them. And so those are the type of volunteers that if you can find those niches and bring them to your organization, they really do. And they want to be teachers. Like, they enjoy being the crew leads. They enjoy working with other volunteers. So sometimes it takes a little bit of, work on the back end of trying to find these people, but they're out there. And once they come out, once your staff has taught them the things that they need, they really can become keys to your organization's success. I know our construction team could not operate without our regular volunteers. They lead our sites alongside our staff every single day of the week. So.
Thank you so much. We actually have 2 questions that were just shared with us from Craig and Carolyn, and they're very similar. So I'm going to try and read kind of a combination of the 2 here. But how far are you able to schedule groups in advance? Let's see here. 1 week in advance, 1 month in advance? Is there a function in Giveffect for our director of construction to indicate a need as soon as it's determined?
So I guess I'll start. For our construction schedule, ideally, we have all of our lots picked out at the beginning of the year, and we have a set schedule for each build. So, for example, a 1-story house is always going to take 9 weeks. A 2-story house, I think it takes 12 weeks. That's not including like development of the lot and things like that. So we are able to plan out basically the entire year at the beginning. So right now we have the High School Coalition bill that just started last weekend. It's going to go from March 4th till I believe May 13th. And we have people volunteering on site, groups volunteering on site every Saturday in between then, except for Easter. So our scheduling is way in advance at times, and almost always our high school build is the first build because they have to finish before the school year ends. So that's how we do it. I'm not sure about other affiliates, but that's our process.
Yeah, for us too, we're currently scheduling through 2023. The way that we kind of do it is we plan with our construction team. We operate usually always 3 sites a day, Monday through Saturdays. There are some days when we are down to 2, or maybe we're up to 4. During our Women Build initiative, we operate 4 sites. But we're building year round. And so when we build our calendar with construction, we start scheduling out throughout the year. For sponsored or team build days or groups that are coming out, taking up the entire site, we'll schedule those out months in advance. We open up for just individuals to sign up to volunteer on our public calendar, which is a great feature through Giveffect. It's that public shift. We set a 2-week deadline. So that 2-week shift, or that shift closes off 2 weeks prior to the build day. So those will be up on our public calendar. We usually put those on about 8 weeks prior to the volunteer date, and then it'll close 2 weeks prior to the date. So we are scheduling out fairly far in advance, for the entire year. But we always close our volunteer shifts, both the public ones on the calendar, and then with our private team build events, we close those 2 weeks out. So we build our construction schedule or roster 2 weeks prior to the build day, and that allows our construction team time to prepare the scope of work for their weeks ahead. But I always think individual volunteers, if they schedule too far out, they might put themselves on the calendar for 6 to 8 build days months in advance, and then they don't know what their schedule is going to be, and then they cancel. But those organizations or community partners that are coming out as a group, they're less likely to cancel, and it's always good to get those booked out early. I'm sure most affiliates are like this. Your calendars fill up, so we book them out in advance, and they're more likely to fulfill their spots as well. So I think it really, as far as how far out in advance, it's really just working with your construction team and setting that timeline.
Great, thank you. And one thing just to point out too, going back to our question about skilled workers is that within Giveffect, you can actually add password protection for certain roles. So if you are looking for someone that has a specific skill set, you can keep that role password protected to then share that with the specific supporters that may have those skills. So that might help you out a little bit. All right, so on to our next question coming in from Heidi. Are you using Giveffect for donors also or just volunteers?
So we use Giveffect for everything: volunteers, donors, email marketing. That was one of the things that we were looking for. We had in the past multiple different systems for different tasks, and we wanted to streamline everything into one. So that's what we saw the benefit in Giveffect, because they have so many different modules, and we just have to log into one place to do multiple things. And they also have web hosting, which we have not moved to yet, but we will be doing that in the future so that everything is in one place.
Yeah, same with us. Giveffect is really just a one-stop shop for us. All of our information lives there, and it really has allowed us to really do some very accurate reporting: who our donors are, who our volunteers are that are also donors, and vice versa. Everything lives on our profile, on the profiles of the individuals or the organizations. So we use it to track everything. Our marketing team uses it for their email campaigns. And that is also great because they can really send targeted marketing to specific people or send it out to our whole contact base. But yeah, we use Giveffect for all of it. And it really has been life-changing for our organization over the last few years.
Thank you. That's so nice to hear that from both of you, how much Giveffect has helped you reach your goals. And for those of you who did not attend or didn't know about the first workshop in the series, which was reaching fundraising goals, actually Felicia and Stacy's colleagues who focus on development and fundraising, they presented their successes on that workshop. So after today's session, we'll send a follow-up email that also has a link to that session for those of you who are interested in watching that. So thank you. All right, so the next question is, what is the best way to highlight or recognize volunteers' work without spending money?
That's a great question. One thing that we've started doing is on social media. We will, every Friday, we call it Habitat Family Friday. So, a member of our team, whether it's a staff member, a volunteer, a donor that, we just want to recognize on that day, we'll, reach out to them and ask them, why do you volunteer with us? What motivates you to do this with us? And we will profile them on our social media, on Facebook and Instagram. And that's one way that we do some recognition that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it is challenging really to find ways that you can recognize your volunteers in a meaningful way that obviously doesn't cost us money. What we have also found, though, is a lot of our volunteers, they're very passionate about the work that we do, and they want to see money spent towards doing the work that we do. So most volunteers are not looking for tangible items given to them as, a thank you. We do use Volunteer Appreciation Week, the National Volunteer Appreciation Week, as a way of really recognizing our volunteers. And we host one event during that week where we invite them here, and it's we usually have a dinner or appetizers or whatnot. So we do spend money on that event. But outside of that, we really have found, like Felicia says, using social media to promote our groups and our individual volunteers and really showing what they do and how the impact that they make in our organization, that it really is, I think, the best way to feature them. We do a lot of personal phone calls and emails. We use our surveys to really follow up with volunteers and telling them thank you. So those are the kind of things we do. We have Habitat t-shirts, but we really try to be very cognizant on who we give those to. Because we don't want to be spending money that we don't need to be spending. Those are really reserved for our sponsored Build Day volunteers, so that when that money is coming in, that's part of it. And we do give t-shirts and whatnot to our regular volunteers because they're wearing them out in the public all the time. They're wearing them on the construction sites. But we really do try as hard as, as much as we can to avoid spending really unnecessary funds on recognizing our volunteers with monetary things, because we know that where they want the money to be going, and that's towards providing affordable housing solutions.
Thank you so much. Next question here is, what are some of the ways to keep volunteers engaged between builds?
So for us, our build season is between February and November. We end the season right before Thanksgiving. So we have a couple months where we're not doing a lot of construction and not using volunteers during that period of time. Luckily, it falls right into the holidays. So, we'll do a Christmas party and invite, especially our regular volunteers, our construction crew. We have a whole yearly event for our construction crew over Christmas. We also do a separate Christmas party for Restore volunteers and homeowner selection volunteers. And then in January, when the year starts up again, we do training. So that kind of every month of the year, we have something going on. So people don't check out.
For us, we are building 12 months out of the year. There are times where usually the week of Christmas and the week of Thanksgiving, we're pretty slow on the construction site, or we don't have volunteers out. But for the most part, we're out there 12 months out of the year. Of course, weather always impacts things. But when we do have downtime, we have 5 restores here in Kansas City that we have volunteers in. And so they're there. That's open year round. So we'll put volunteers there or sway them in that direction. One of the things that we do with our volunteers to always try to keep them engaged, we do quarterly what we call volunteer trainings. We don't usually do it during the summer months because those are really our peak times that we are needing to be out on construction sites at all times. But we'll do these quarterly trainings. They're either in the morning or in the afternoon. And we just bring our core group of volunteers in. So mostly all of our regulars, some of them that just come out very frequently. And we do some trainings. So it might be a safety overview. We might teach them how to install doors or windows. Really, we kind of pull them, again, the surveys through Giveffect, on really what they're wanting, what they're needing. And then we do these trainings. And we also do trainings that aren't specific to construction. We recently did one that was for aging in place. So how to think of your own home and make it someplace that you can stay in long term as you age. But we're also trying to implement that into our own builds as well. So we do things like that, and we try to bring in volunteers into our headquarters to do those, to keep them engaged when they're not out on the construction sites or at our restores.
Wonderful. Let's see here, the next question. And just a quick reminder, we have about 5 minutes left and we have just a few questions left in our queue. So if anyone else has a burning question, now's the time to share that. All right. So how do you meet volunteering goals when current projects or more pressing projects rely more on licensed contractors?
So for us, we typically we do have projects that rely on licensed contractors, and those are usually our home repairs, which we do home repairs for U.S. veterans and for older adults. And that has been a challenge, finding a way to incorporate volunteers into those projects. There are some opportunities to do that. For example, during a home repair, if you have to end up painting the room afterwards, that's something more simple that volunteers can do. And we're also trying to explore another avenue, which is landscaping and, exterior paint when we do our home repairs to give do a little home preservation at the same time. So that allows us to serve that homeowner with with our volunteer groups as well, and not just with the contractors during the repair.
For us, we typically, because we have about anywhere from 4 to 6 new homes being built at the same time, along with our home preservation projects, we typically don't really have a lull of times when we wouldn't have volunteers out, because our construction team will just plan, like we have 2 homes in contracting with a contractor, so the other 3 to 4, whatever, would have volunteers on them. So it's really just them planning to make sure that we always have some of our sites open for volunteers, while the other ones have work being done that's in a subcontractor stage or whatnot. So.
Great, thank you. All right, so our next question here is, have you found that it's easy to connect with someone from Giveffect when you have a question about how to accomplish an objective?
Yeah, I think it's definitely easy to contact Giveffect. Now, usually if it's something simple, I'll use the chat, because they do have like a chat support on Giveffect. And usually if it's something simple, that can usually solve it. If it's something a little bit more in depth, I'll send out an email to the support email at Giveffect, and they're really responsive. And not only are they responsive just to the questions, but it seems as if there's a lot of development going on in the system at all times. So there's always new features. And if you have something that you're like, wow, this is really not working out very well, can this be changed? Can this be implemented? It seems like they're really, really responsive to that. And that's one of the things I like about Giveffect.
Yeah, same with us. Our whole team uses the chat feature for any questions that we have. Sometimes if we don't know how to do something, or if we're seeing some type of glitch in the system or whatever it is, we always get great responses. And sometimes through the chat, they're not able to fix it, but they always forward it on. So, and then we have our one-on-ones usually yearly or so with Jack. So it works really well for us to communicate, our needs or problems that we're having. And same thing as Felicia says, whenever we have suggestions like we could really use this feature, it would really help us. We always feel like they're very, very good about making that happen if it's possible.
Thank you both for that response. I think just to the core values of Giveffect, that really speaks to what we stand for, because it is really important for us to build and continue to build Giveffect to serve your needs, and also be a good partner. So kudos to Jack Harrison, who's on the line with us today, and his team, because I think they do a really great job. So our last question here is, unless there's any very last questions, we might have time for just one more, but what is the best way to set volunteer goals for Restore?
So we're new to the Restore business. We recently acquired the Restore in Smyrna, Georgia, in almost a year ago, actually, in May of last year. And so we're really new to that part of the process. Now, what we do is, we've utilized like some of the volunteers from our construction crew, and you use them during the week to help with the Restore. We also use a lot of community service volunteers to help in the Restore as well. But we are new to that, and we're always looking for new ways to bring people in who are regular people who can, do once a week shift to keep some continuity, and so that we don't have to do as much training. So that's a great question, and I hope Stacy has an answer.
Well, I don't know if I have the correct answer, but we have 5 restores here, and we utilize volunteers a lot in our restores. What we have found is that a lot of individuals and organizations that come to us, their first thought is wanting to be on the construction site. But sometimes that just doesn't work. Their schedule doesn't allow. It's a long build day, that we have an age limit, that type of thing. And sometimes people just want to mix. They want to be on construction and in restore. So we have recently really just started to work on our volunteer experience at Restores. And one of the things that we have found that creates a positive volunteer experience is really when there is good planning. So all these are retail settings, and so there's always projects to be done. And the better planned the volunteer day is, the better experience that it is. So that's one of the things that our team on our restore side is working on, is really getting a point person in each of our restores that is responsible for the volunteers. So when the volunteer walks in or the volunteer group walks in, they're welcomed, they're greeted. We really are trying to inform them also on the difference that they are making, the impact that they're making on our organization by volunteering in our restores. So connecting those two things, connecting our mission and what we do with the restores is important, because sometimes people really just don't know. They don't know that they're really benefiting affordable housing solutions in your community. So that's key, but also just making sure that that whole day is planned, in that they have sufficient work to be doing, because no one wants to come and just stand around and not do anything. If you're coming and you're a volunteer, you really want to work. You want to see that you are making a difference. That's why you're giving your time. So for us, that's really something that we're working on, because we really need these volunteers. We are trying to operate 5 restores. They're very large. And the volunteers really truly can make a difference in how our restores operate. So the planning part of it is, I think, key. And that's something that we're working on, and in order to really increase retention in restore volunteers, I think, because if you come and you don't have a good experience, you're likely not going back. So that's kind of what we're working on, but it's really important to have that point person in each of your stores, or your store, that can really plan for those volunteers.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful responses. And thank you both, Stacy and Felicia, for sharing your best practices, your successes, your thoughts with us today. I hope it inspires all the other affiliates on the workshop with us today. Just a couple last closing remarks. Please stay tuned for some upcoming programming. We'll be putting on some more workshops similar to this, so please stay tuned. We've also included within the chat some links to additional resources that we think might be helpful. We're always sharing new content and updates on events on our LinkedIn, so feel free to follow us, as well as check out our nonprofit resource center. And one last thing today, for anyone who does have the time and is interested, is my colleague Yulia will be doing a 15-minute mini Giveffect demo, just to provide a quick overview. Anyone else who is interested but maybe can't stay on for an additional 15 minutes, we totally understand. So if you are interested in learning more about Giveffect, please head over to our website and book a demo. And as I mentioned earlier, we will send an email out following this in the next few days that does have access to the recording. So thank you again for joining us. And now I will turn this over to Yulia. So give us just 1 minute and we will get started with that demo.
Yes, thank you so much, Tara. Thank you so much, Felicia and Stacy, once again. It was a wonderful presentation and also such a fruitful discussion. So for everyone who would like to stay on, my name is Yulia and I'm a head of partnerships here at Giveffect. So I will provide with a very brief 10 to 15 minutes overview of Giveffect, what we do, how we support our Habitat affiliates, and I'm going to start in 30 seconds. All right. So for those of you who are staying on the line, once again, thank you so much for joining our workshops today. But also, I know how busy your schedule is, so we really appreciate you staying on the line for another 10-15 minutes for a very brief overview of what is Giveffect. So as you can see on our website, Giveffect is all-in-one software, and we work only with nonprofit organizations and specifically with many Habitat affiliates. Today, we were hearing a lot about specifically volunteer management and how two of our Habitat affiliates clients utilize it. But Giveffect is more than just volunteer management. It's 10-in-1 system that supports our clients' organizations to managing anything from donor, volunteers, partner families, mortgages, fundraising. Of course, it has CRM and marketing tools to support all their organizational needs. I'm not going to go to too many details, but just wanted to provide you with this brief overview of everything that we have to offer. So why specifically Habitat affiliates choose Giveffect? Well, there's a few main reasons. One is, of course, it's out of the box, one platform, one login to manage all of the activities across your organizations and track, as I mentioned, donations, offline gifts, volunteer management, donor management, fundraising, and so on. On top of that, from very beginning, since we've been created, we are really focused on supporting Habitat affiliates, and we have a team dedicated specifically to work with them. Currently, we have, I think this is not updated, but we have 40 plus affiliates that we are working with, and the list is growing. And Giveffect is really investment into relationships with your donors, volunteers, and into growing your affiliate. Just a couple of things what Giveffect replaced it. Since we are a 10-in-1 system, typically we have nonprofits who come with us with 2 to 8 different systems. And here's just a quick examples of what kind of software we typically replace. But let's dive in, and I wanted to show you some of the examples of how Giveffect powers and what area we're powering on our affiliates' websites, and just show you some examples of the front end, how we're supporting our affiliates, and a couple of examples of the back end, so you have some idea. So as I mentioned, Giveffect is not only volunteer management, but of course we have a full online giving fundraising system. So we are powering a donate button for all of our clients. And here is just a couple of examples of embedded donation form, as you can see right here, or more standard long donation form. All of those forms are customizables. They are reflect each affiliate or each of our clients' branding, and you have an options to process one-time, monthly pledges, and really collect as much or as little information as possible. Outside from online donation, main donate button within Giveffect, you can create unlimited number of campaigns. And here is just a few examples, starting with the simple donate button campaign to having any types of ticketed events, whether you have golf tournament, concert, you sell tickets for any of those events, it's possible to create those within Giveffect as well. And here is an example. If your organization having an auction, that's also possible with Giveffect. So here is an example of one of our clients who does annual restore auctions, and those auctions can be done online, in person, hybrid. You can have all of your items, beautiful items here, and bring this additional funds to your organization. Couple of examples, of course, team fundraising and peer-to-peer fundraising. That's what Giveffect is also known for. This is just the campaign that Felicia was referencing in her presentation, where students come every year, create their own teams, and fundraise on Habitat for Humanity of North Spartan Planet behalf to fundraise for the build. Another example is women's build. Of course, so many affiliates these days are doing women build. So here's an example of the campaign. One of our clients doing peer-to-peer campaign. You can register as individual, or you can register your own team. You can donate to this campaign, or they even have a button for sponsors. So you don't need to go back and forth with your sponsors. You can put all of your sponsorship level right here on the campaign and send them a link. Once they complete the link, funds going to your organizations, all the sponsored information. They have so many sponsors, you can see it right here. And of course, because it's a team fundraising, you can see all of these wonderful teams right here. And we can click on each of those images and we'll be taken on each team's page. If you see here on the top, you will get the option to share this link. So of course, all of your supporters can share those campaigns on the social media with their friends, email them, and really extend the reach and bring so much more attention to your cause, to this particular event, and mobilize community to support your organization. A couple more examples. If I know that a lot of affiliates provide classes for first-time home buyers and so on. So if your affiliate does that as well, it's possible to create RSVP events and try and also collect fees if that's necessary. So this is an example of one of those classes. And if you don't collect the fee, that's all right too. We have an option to create RSVP campaigns. For those type of classes, events, seminars that you're not necessarily raising funds, you just want to have a correct people to RSVP, have a correct head count, and bring them together. So here's an example. I know one of the question was how our clients recognize their volunteers, and I think Felicia was saying that they do events for their volunteers. So here's an example of a construction crew Christmas party. Again, simple campaign, and you can share it with your volunteers, construction crew, and so on, and then go ahead and RSVP. But the same campaigns can be used for home seminars, workshops, and other types of events. So here's a very brief overview of all the fundraising events. And of course, the other big part of Giveffect is volunteer management. Couple of things just want to briefly to share, and those things we didn't have a chance to talk today, but of course with Giveffect you also have an option of volunteer calendar. So this is the online calendar from Kansas City Habitat for Humanity. We can see it in this view or in this view, and we can see as Stacy was mentioning, they have 6 restores that they're managing. So we can see all the for Monday, March 13, all these different restores opportunity for volunteers when they can come in, they can sign up. If the list is full already, volunteers can join wait list, and once the spot is open, they will be automatically bumped up and notified that now they can come in for this volunteer opportunity. Aside from calendar, you saw some great examples today, but there is an ability to create volunteer campaigns for each specific build and mobilize your community that way. But what's important is, of course, not only create all of this campaign, raise funds, attract on board volunteers, but also where all of this information is going. So those were examples of what Giveffect powers on each of our clients' website. Once I come to the page and I donate or I volunteer or I participate in any campaigns, all of that information will go back into Giveffect in real time and will be stored in the database. So if I'm a new volunteer, the system will be creating new profile for me. If I'm a returning volunteer or donor, like Wendell right here, the system will keep enriching my profile and adding all of that information. So just to give you a quick overview of the profile, we have demographic information, all the different groups, volunteer application right in the same profile. And as we scroll down, we can really get 360-degree view of all the activities that Wendell have with our organization. We can take a look at his giving history and see all of his donation. We can take a look at his volunteering history and all of his assignments. The same way we can take a look at the campaigns interactions, where we can see all emails, text messaging, letters we sent to Wendell. So all of that information provided in one profile, so you can really get 360-degree view of all the activities that your supporter have with the organization. And what's important is not only to collect that information, but what we do with that information. Because we have built-in marketing communication system within Giveffect, you don't need to leave Giveffect to send an email or text message to your supporters. So right here is a quick example. I'm in CRM and a context, and I want to take a look at all people who are in our group Women Build, who participated in Women Build. So I queried that, and I have 3 contacts. So from here, I can select all. I can send them a letter. I can go ahead and send email to a list of my supporters. And again, once that email goes out, all of those interactions will be saved within their profile. So we know exactly how often and when we participate, we communicate with our supporters. So that's a very brief overview of Giveffect system. As I mentioned, we have 10 different systems that we didn't get to see all of them. Aside from donor management, volunteer management, fundraising and events, we also have email marketing, grant management, moves management, and so on. So if you're interested in looking into more details, please feel free to visit our website at giveffect.com /habitat-for-humanity. You will find more additional information and resources, details on specific features. And from here, if you want to try our 14 days trial, please go ahead, hit this button. Or if you would like to talk in more details about strategy and if this might be a good solution for you or not, please feel free and go ahead and schedule a call with us. So with this, I wanted to say thank you for staying extra minutes here with me. It was really my great pleasure to provide you with an overview. And again, thank you for joining our workshop today.